Welcome to Do Not Disturb. Today we are reading a story called My Wife Has Been Peeking at Me from Around Corners and Behind Furniture. It's gone from weird to terrifying. This is from r/no sleep by Malana Girl 1314, and it's ranked the scariest story of 2022, which honestly has me a little bit terrified. And just by the title, I'm like, your wife is not who you think she is. Your wife is actually terrifying. But let's get into the story. My wife, Lynn, and I have been together for 6 years and married for 11 months. Our entire history together has been very normal, and never once have I noticed anything weird, behaviors or red flags. I can't stress enough how out of character this whole thing is for her. Lynn is very kind, intelligent, and thoughtful. She's always been the no-nonsense type of person. Being childish or trying to scare me is not something she'd normally do. She doesn't even like watching horror movies. When we first started dating, she agreed to watch The Shining with me because she knew how much I loved horror. She was so scared that she didn't even make it through half of the movie before we had to turn it off. She isn't into anything creepy and has never been into pranks. It's just not her cup of tea, and that's fine. But that's what's so strange about this. It's just so unlike her. I should also add that she's never had any mental issues, or as far as I'm aware of, and it doesn't run in her family. I know some people are able to hide their mental health problems, but in 6 years we've been together, I think I would have seen some sort of sign. 2 months ago, I was in the kitchen making myself a cup of coffee before work. I was running a bit late that morning and knew I wouldn't be able to get Dunkin' Donuts for my usual morning fix. I took a sip of my coffee as I hurried down the hall towards the front door, when I happened to notice Lynn peeking at me from around the corner ahead of me. I could only see her eyes and a strand of her long, dark hair hanging against the wall. The rest of her body was concealed behind the corner. I nearly spilled my cup of coffee when I saw her. The light is off, guys. We are running in this lighting for the rest of the story. I'm sorry. When I saw her, I did burn the shit out of my lips. "Geez, Lynn," I said, wiping a few drops of coffee from my pants. "You scared the shit out of me." She immediately popped out of the view like a little kid that had been caught. I heard her scurry off towards the living room, and by the time I got to the front door, she was out of sight. It was really weird and just totally out of character for her, like I said, but I also found it kind of funny that she was being more playful and a little less serious. I shouted that I loved her and reminded her that she's a little weirdo as I shut the door behind me and heard her laughing. Her behavior was a bit off, but it certainly wasn't something to call a priest over. I forgot about it by lunch, and by the time I went home, she was her normal self. I didn't bring it up, and neither did she, and life went on. The next incident happened 3 days later. It was around 2 a.m. and I had woken up to get a drink. I was standing at the kitchen island, jug of OJ in hand, when I felt a strong feeling that I was being watched. For whatever reason, I looked down at the floor and saw my wife smiling, staring back at me. She was peeking at me from the other side of the island, staring up at me, wide eyes, unblinking wide eyes, and grinning like a Cheshire cat. The cat from Alice in Wonderland is what he's talking about. I've never been able to pronounce that since I was a kid, so I do apologize for that. I screamed, I'll admit it, not out of irritation but fear. For some reason at that moment I was scared. At the sound of my scream, Lynn scuttled backwards out of my view, her hands and feet smacking the tile floor as she hurried out of the kitchen on all floors. I didn't run after her, or even yell after her. I just stood there, frozen in shock, wondering what fuck had possessed her to do that. It took me a little longer than I'd like to admit to go back upstairs, but I eventually did. When I got to our bedroom, Lynn was sleeping on her side, or at least pretending to be. I stood there for a while watching her, breathing, to make sure she was really asleep. I had a feeling she might jump out at me the moment I got into bed, but she didn't. I climbed into bed and she didn't move. Her breathing was soft and deep, and I was starting to wonder if I dreamt the whole thing. The next morning, I waited for her to come down for a coffee and handed her a mug and kissing her on her cheek. I decided to ask her about it. "What was that about last night?" I asked, keeping my tone light so I didn't offend her or embarrass her. She frowned over her cup of coffee, shaking her head like she had no clue what I was referring to. "You're pinking at me again, from over there," I said, pointing to the spot on the floor by the kitchen island. She followed my gaze, and when she looked back at me, she burst out laughing. She laughed so hard that I couldn't help but join her. "You creep the fuck out of me sometimes, you know that?" I said, and she giggled and set up her cup on the counter and wrapped her hands around my neck. She said, "You creep me out all of the time, so I guess we're even." We said our goodbyes and left for work. As I drove, I kept thinking about how creepy it had been seeing her grinning at me from behind the island like that. The sounds her hands made on the floor as she crawled away. I told myself she wasn't just being silly, just trying to join me in my love of all things horror. It's not like I was afraid of her, but it still didn't sit right with me. Okay, let's talk about a few theories first that I have about this. A few theories that I have so far is that it's not your wife peeking at you. It just looks like your wife, which is something ever so terrifying to me. I hate the idea of like a mimic, but that's kind of what it sounds like a doppelganger or mimic. But I feel like a mimic and a doppelganger are two different things. I guess I don't really actually know. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be in front of the frame. I don't think I actually know what a mimic is per se, or like a doppelganger, I guess. Like, I think like a mimic is more like they're playful and they're more like they're more like trying to harm you by like getting you afraid, by like pulling pranks on you and making you believe certain things. Do you get what I mean? Like, and I feel like a doppelganger is just like they kind of just roam, like they look just like the other person, but they don't necessarily try to interact with you. I don't think, like, stories I've heard about doppelgangers versus mimics, it's like mimics will mess with you, and this sounds like a mimic, where a doppelganger is more like they just show up as the other person, but they don't necessarily try to talk to anyone, and if they do, they're trying to murder you. Like, I feel like those are the only two scenarios for those different types of entities. I don't think they're the same. And this sounds like a mimic, in my opinion. And she's like, it's not her, obviously. I just don't think that's her. I don't think that's even clinically possible. This sounds insane. But I think she is, I think your wife laughing about it concerns me though, because I don't think she actually knows about it, but I don't know why she wouldn't just say, "Oh, I didn't do that." Especially if she's not like playful. And she said like y'all are even, but I don't think it was your wife that did that, and I think you're gonna find that out very soon that it wasn't your wife that did that. I think I've heard this story before on Creepcast or something, so this might be like a recap. I don't know, but this sounds more like a mimic that is like in your house, so I'm kind of scared about what the mimic actually wants, because it doesn't make sense to me that the mimic would be so obvious that it's there unless it wanted you to see it. And the only thing that confuses me right now is why the mimic runs away instead of running towards him. Like, I feel like the mimic would try to hurt him straight off the bat, but maybe it's just playing with its food first, honestly. Like, it's playing with him to get him more afraid and more concerned. Do you get what I mean? Like, I think that makes more sense. Anyway, let's continue the story. I started seeing her peeking at me more and more often. Sometimes she'd be peeking from behind the couch or living room curtains. Once she even managed to get inside of her grandmother's old truck that sits at the foot of our bed. Oh, old trunk. Oh, see, she managed to get inside of her grandmother's old trunk that sits at the foot of our bed. I might not even know she was there at all, had the old trunk hinges not giving her away. So the mimic is trying to hide. I don't think that's the wife. If the mimic is actively hiding, I feel like that's just so strange. In the trunk, I don't know why it would hide there. It can't even see you. I don't know. She had the lid propped up just enough so that only half of her face peeked through. She had been grinning like an excited toddler. It was unnerving. I didn't even know what to say to her. All I could do was stare. When I finally found my voice, I asked her why on earth she was doing this. She didn't answer, but she had slowly closed the lid shut, shutting herself inside the trunk. I just walked away, feeling disturbed. I didn't understand why she was doing it, but it clearly made her happy. I just hoped she would get tired of the game quickly. Lynn didn't pink at me for the next 2 weeks. I started to think she was done with this weird prank, and I was relieved. We were watching a show on Netflix one night, and I had jokingly said that I hadn't seen her peeking at me lately, and that she must have given up on her spy game. She looked up at me with a small smile and said, "Maybe I've just gotten better at it." Oh. Okay, so the wife does actually know about the spying, and so it is actually the wife. Now I'm concerned. Now I'm like, oh, so she's just being creepy like that? But honestly, I'm imagining it like with me and like my future husband or something. Like I'm imagining me doing that and I'm like, I would do that. I'm not gonna lie, I probably would do every single thing that she's doing, but I wouldn't get better at it. I think I would get actively worse at spying on him. Like I would probably like be hiding around corners or something. I would like if I was the wife, I'd probably like actively try to get worse at it so he sees me more often. Like I would start with like elite spying skills until he starts seeing me, and I would make that a whole joke. But it sounds like she's doing it to actually spy on him, which it's creeping me out. But you know, potato potato. Story. I didn't say anything, but I wondered whether or not she was joking. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. Was she still peeking at me and I wasn't looking, or I just hadn't noticed? And if so, what the hell was she getting out of this? I started to feel paranoid, constantly checking whether she was watching me from around the corner or behind a door. I was jumpy whenever I was home, and she wasn't in full view of me. I felt stupid and a little crazy. But after a few weeks without another incident, I began to relax. I stopped checking behind furniture and walls and told myself it was just bad memory. Then, a few days ago, things got much worse. Lynn left to go to a friend's house, and I lounged on the couch and played a couple of games on my laptop. Around 9 p.m., I hopped in the shower and I was washing the soap from my hair. I felt that awful feeling that I was being watched. Oh, this is my worst fear. I hate being in the bathroom, like in the shower specifically, and you feel like someone's there. Like you feel, because like you have the shower curtain closed, and the shower curtain has like this tendency to go into you. You get what I mean? Like it's like the freaking ghost is like freaking pushing the shower curtain to you, and it's just like the worst feeling ever because you feel like someone's there and literally nobody's there. And sometimes I just have to open the shower curtain because I literally cannot handle the freaking pressure of feeling like I'm being watched and then nobody being there. It drives me insane. But anyway, I digress because just thinking about it gives me the freaking shivels. Like I'm like, hell no. Anyway, let's continue. I slowly opened my eyes and almost had a fucking heart attack. Lynn was peeking from behind the shower curtain, her entire head stretched into the shower, leaving just her body outside. Her long, dark hair hung against the curtain, the ends dripping with water. Her mouth hung open in a terrible grin, eyes wide and red, as if she hadn't blinked in a while. I screamed and jumped back against the wall. She didn't move, nor did her smile waver. Her makeup ran down her cheeks in 2 black streaks. She looked giddy and completely deranged. I was fucking terrified. We stood there like that for a few moments, neither of us saying a word. Finally, after what felt like forever, she slowly pulled her head back out of the shower, and I watched her blurry figure through the curtains as she moved backwards towards the bathroom door. A second later, the bathroom door slammed shut, hard enough for the mirror to rattle. I screamed again and jumped out of the shower to lock the door. I stayed inside the bathroom for over an hour. Maybe I overreacted to some of you, but joke or not, I wasn't going to put up with this crazy shit anymore. That's what I kept telling myself, and I paced in the bathroom, stopping to listen at the door every few minutes. That is terrifying. I feel like if Okay, I wouldn't go to that extent. If I was the wife, doing that is crazy. You just look deranged. I'm like, that's stuff I write horror movies about, literally. Like, that is deranged behavior. Like, that's terrifying. Oh, my hair is also terrifying. But that's terrifying. I'm like, dang, are you sure that's what you want to do? I don't know. Like, this is scary. This is scary behavior. But also, I feel like maybe she just has a mental illness and you need to get her checked out. But I thought she left to go to her friend's house like at 9 p.m. So that means my original theory might be correct, that it's a mimic and not your wife. But it just makes me confused on why your wife would even entertain the idea that it's her doing it. Like, why would she not say, I'm not doing it, you know? Like, I feel like she would have just said, I'm not the one doing it. So I'm a little confused, but we'll continue. Suddenly, I heard a muffled sound, and I pressed my ear against the bathroom door, straining to listen. I couldn't hear anything, but I envisioned Lynn standing on the other side of the door, giggling at her joke. I felt a surge of anger. I was beyond pissed at being made to feel scared in my own home, and made to hide in the bathroom for an hour. All for what? Some joke? If it was a joke, it was an awful one. I screamed, "What the fuck, Lynn? This shit is really fucking annoying." I waited for her to apologize or call me a jerk, but instead I heard a faint moan. So quiet, I wondered if I heard it at all. And then complete silence. "Lynn?" I called out, not able to hide the shakiness in my voice. I got no response. Just my own heavy breathing. I swear to God, just fucking stop it. Sorry that I said God, guys. I did not. I just read it. Sorry. I yelled, pounding my fist on the door. I waited for her to cuss me out, something I would expect from me talking to her like that, and never screamed at her before. But there was nothing, just the occasional drip from the shower head. I won't deny that I was scared, too scared to open the damn door and face my own wife. I waited another 30 minutes or so, which felt like a fucking lifetime when you're scared. Finally, I decided I wasn't going to spend the night hiding in my bathroom, so I got down on my knees and peered under the door. I almost expected to see her face peeking back at me, but thankfully I didn't. I could see straight down the hallway to the top of the stairs, but no Lynn. I didn't know if I should be happy about that or not. I looked for a few minutes, waiting to see her head pop out over the top step, but it never came. I stood up, my hand hovering over the door, and mentally prepared myself to open it. I slowly turned the lock with the shaky fingers and was about to yank it open, when I heard a sound that made me feel nauseous when I think about it. A moan, louder than before. This time, I was able to tell just where it was coming from. I turned my head to the closet door, as if in slow motion, and locked my eyes with my wife, who was peeking out at me from the slight gap. Oh, that is terrifying. Is this still in the bathroom? I think this is still in the bathroom that he sees the wife. So she's in the bathroom with him. So I'm assuming the bathroom door that he heard was really the closet, and that's... Okay, well, let's continue. Her eyes were still as wide as ever, and her mouth was hanging open in the most grotesque, gasping smile I'd ever seen. I didn't even scream. I was too scared for even that. Her hands were clasped to her chest, body trembling with sheer delight, as if she could barely contain her excitement. A short, raspy moan bubbled up from her throat, deep and raw, sending a shiver through my entire body. Somehow, I found the ability to pull the bathroom door open and ran as fast as I could all the way down the steps, snagging my keys and phone from the table in the living room before running down to my car. I could hear her shrill laughter behind me, but I didn't hear her getting closer. I didn't even bother shutting the front door. I drove away from the house faster than I legally should have, shivering the entire time, enough from fear or the cold, maybe a little of both. I hadn't grabbed a coat or even a pair of shoes. I was still in my boxers and my hair was still damp. I drove straight to my brother's house, Chris, about 40 minutes away, ignoring ignoring any and every call and text I got. I didn't even check my phone until I safely parked in my brother's driveway. Lynn had called me 4 times and sent a fury of texts, all wondering where I'd left like that. Oh, okay, so that means it literally is the wife, because Lynn is sending him text messages and calls. So that means the wife is actually doing this? That is terrifying. That's not even funny anymore, because she knows that he's scared. You know, like, if it's like a joke where you're like peering and then you start laughing and they start laughing with you, it's like, okay, that could be cute, you know? And like, you're not standing there for like hours or minutes, you know? Like, you're standing there for maybe like 2 minutes tops, 5 minutes tops, like watching them. It's like, okay, fine. An hour and 30 minutes, because he said that he was hearing moans and stuff, and he was basically in the bathroom for an hour and 30 minutes. The way I would have body slammed my wife. I'm sorry, there's no way. There's no way. Okay, let's continue. I threw my phone at the dash in a rage, furious at her nonchalant attitude. My brother and his wife were surprised to see me, especially dressed in a pair of boxers, but told me to stay as long as I needed. Chris lent me some clothes and asked what happened. I told him Lynn and I had a fight, but didn't want to get into details. I didn't want him to think I was overreacting, leaving my wife over a prank, even if it was a strange one. I mean, I hadn't encouraged her for years to lighten up instead of being so serious all the time. I had wanted her to relax and loosen up, but this definitely wasn't what I had in mind. I tried to sleep on their sofa, but my brain wouldn't let me sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lynn's face, staring at me from inside the closet. Knowing she'd been there with me the entire time made my skin crawl. She'd never left the fucking bathroom at all. Instead, she slipped inside the closet and slammed the bathroom door shut to fool me. The mere thought of going back home gave me anxiety. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Chris ended up giving me a sleeping pill so I would be able to get a little rest. My sleep was filled with terrible dreams of Lynn's smiling face. I woke up just as the sun started to rise. My sore body ached from the sofa, and I felt drained. I knew I'd had to call Lynn at some point, but I didn't even know what to say to her. I wouldn't be going home unless she gave me a word that she would never do this creepy shit anymore. I just wanted my wife back. Her normal, serious self never looked so good to me. I was contemplating calling her and telling her that when that familiar feeling came over me, I was being watched. I was staring at my ceiling, my heart in my throat. I didn't want to look away, but the longer I ignored the feeling, the worse it got. My eyes drifted away from the ceiling almost on their own. Her face was pressed against the window beside the couch, staring down at me with that same gaping smile. Oh no. The way I would actually just get a divorce. At that point, this is divorce worthy. And I wouldn't go to the same room. I would just get a lawyer, get a divorce, close all of the windows, stay with my brother as long as I could. If I was financially able to, I would get a new home. Like, there's no way I am staying with that woman. Like, y'all are in a fight. Like, this is obviously a fight. Even if the bathroom thing was a joke, like, it was a joke too far. And I feel like right after that, you would snap back into reality and you would be like, wait, my husband actually doesn't like when I'm joking with him. Like, my husband doesn't actually like this. And you would be like, oh, okay, let me go apologize. So you would knock on the front door like a normal person and apologize to him. But instead, she's looking at you through the window. Yeah, your wife is possessed, brother. Your wife is possessed. I recommend going to a different country. I recommend moving. I recommend never going back to your wife, honestly. I recommend never going back to her, never even contacting her again. Like, you don't need to talk to her, okay? Divorce lawyers exist for a reason. Tell them to send those dang papers. Like, you're getting a divorce, baby girl. Like, no way in heck am I dealing with this crap. Her face was pressed against the window beside the couch, staring at me with that same gaping smile. Drool dripped down her lips, leaving 2 long streaks down the glass. I didn't know how long she'd been there, but something told me she was there for quite a while, possibly all night. I didn't bother screaming though. I was afraid. Anger trumped any fear I felt at the moment. I jumped up from the couch and pounded my palm against the glass. Lynn, are you crazy? What the hell is wrong with you? Just go home, I shouted. Now. She didn't move, and her ghastly expression never changed. If anything, her smile only grew, as if she'd never been more elevated. I could hear Chris and his wife moving around upstairs, as if Lynn could hear them from her place outside. Her head twitched slightly in their direction, and she began to close her mouth slowly. Chris called my name from upstairs, obviously concerned. I turned to him and his wife Rebecca hurriedly down the steps. When I turned back to the window, Lynn was gone. The only sign she'd been there was all of the streaks of drool still dripping down the glass. I tried to explain to Chris and Rebecca about waking up to see Lynn watching me through their window. They were skeptical, but who wouldn't be? Chris and I went outside to the spot in front of the window, but there was no footprints in the dirt. Just a slight indent. An animal, probably, Chris guessed, and I didn't argue. He and Rebecca assumed I dreamt the entire episode, but they didn't understand. I was too tired to explain it to them. I called out of work that day and turned my cell phone off. I didn't want to face Lynn. Just talking to her was too much for me at that point. I really started to believe something was universally wrong with her. That no matter what promises she made, we'd never be the same again. The thought saddened me to my core. I almost cried in the morning. By noon, I figured I was ready to confront her, give her one last chance to explain herself. I could at least give her a chance that after 6 years, I told myself. I turned my phone on and saw dozens of texts she'd sent, all from a seemingly concerned wife. Can we talk? I love you. Please call me. I'm really worried. Can you answer? Just come home. And more of the same. All texts telling me she loved me and she wanted me to come home. How worried she was. Not damn one addressing the crazy shit she pulled, like she hadn't been acting like a character from a Stephen King book. Even her texts were different. She normally texts novels just to tell me to pick up a loaf of bread. You'd think she would have more to say about the bizarre shenanigans. I know it probably seems childish to some of you who are miles away from the situation, but if you saw the way Lynn looked at me, how she scrambled away on all fours like some wild animal, grinning at me from inside the closet like a lunatic, then I think you would find my reaction warranted. I ended up staying with Chris and Rebecca for another night. I didn't wake up yesterday until afternoon, and thankfully, I didn't see Lynn's face watching me through the window. I didn't want to pry because it's not my place. But is this fight something that can be mended? Rebecca asked. She'd made us both a sandwich for lunch, and I knew she wanted to breach the subject without seeming too nosy. I don't know. She's like a different person, I said, choosing my words carefully. I wasn't ready for her or Chris to know the full extent of the batshit craziness I'd been dealing with. People change, Ben, but she's still the same woman you married. Maybe you both just need to talk through the issues. Whatever's going on, I'm sure it can be fixed, she said. Even the peacemaker. I think it's beyond that now. I don't think talking would help. I just don't trust her, I said. The words stung in my heart. I missed and loved my wife. But how could I live with someone like that? Living in constant fear didn't sound too appealing. Lynn loves you. She would be absolutely crushed, she said. I don't know about that, I said. Well, she certainly seemed like it to me. I never seen her so upset. Very much unlike the Lynn I know, Rebecca said, shaking her head sadly. It took a full minute for her words to really sink in when they did. I felt dread warming its way through my skin. Wait, what do you mean? You saw her? You saw Lynn? I asked, my mouth suddenly dry. Rebecca nodded casually, as if that fact wasn't nightmare fuel. Maybe for her it wasn't. She stopped by this morning just after Chris left for work, she said, cleaning the plates from the table. I didn't see her car though. Maybe she took an Uber or something. Beck, what did she say? Did she come inside? I asked, sweat starting to break out of my forehead. I began looking around, examining corners as though a predator lurked behind them. No. She just asked if you were awake yet, and I said you weren't. I asked if she wanted me to wake you up, but she said no, just to let you sleep. She said as she was washing the dishes. That's all? She didn't say anything else, I asked. No. She looked awful though, like she hadn't slept in days. I think you should call her. I got up from the table and thanked Rebecca for lunch. I felt a little bit better at the acknowledgement that at least she hadn't come inside. Still, I needed to double check the doors were locked. I sat for a while trying to figure out what to do next. I didn't want to go home, but I felt like I owed it to Lynn to help her if I could. Hadn't I sworn an oath of love and honor through sickness and in health? Clearly, she was very sick. If she was sick, which I truly believe she was, I had to try and get her help she needed. But I didn't even know where to start. I didn't want to call the police, and besides, what the hell was I going to tell them? That my wife was peeking at me? That she was being creepy? As bizarre as she'd been, she still hadn't committed any crime. Not yet, anyway. The police would probably have said I was overreacting. But this wasn't some prank. It felt wrong, dangerous even. Like something sinister lurked beneath her smile. I knew, as her husband, I was well within my right to have her committed. But what if she simply acted normal in their presence? She'd obviously been able to fool Rebecca into thinking she was just a concerned wife. As long as the doctors didn't find her a danger to herself or others, they had no choice but to release her within 72 hours. I felt lost and overwhelmed. So I did what any husband in my position would do. I called her mother. I didn't want to, believe me. Her mother, Maureen, and I were never best on terms. We never fought or anything like that. She just wasn't a very warm person, and she wasn't very easy to get along with. She hardly ever smiled, and when she did, only her lips would move into a thin-lipped smile, leaving her eyes as blank as before. She gave off this aura that felt like she was permanently on the offense. I'd only met her twice, and both times were such short visits I got the impression she didn't approve of me for her daughter. Lynn always ushered us out quickly and didn't want me to feel uncomfortable, which I was always grateful for. Being in her mother's company always felt almost unbearable, like walking on glass. I was glad when we moved 3 states away, so we didn't have to see her often. I was happy to avoid the woman, but I needed her help. Honestly, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to get advice from her mother, because maybe this is like a constant, maybe this is something from like her childhood or something, and maybe something like triggered it. Because I know for me, I have a lot of like mental issues that typically can be triggered by specific things. Like I'll go mute for a period of time if I'm under an extreme amount of stress and like I just can't talk to anyone. Like the only person that I can typically talk to when I'm mute is maybe like my family, like my mom, my brother, and like my stepdad. But I know like when I was in school a lot, there were constant periods of me going mute, especially my senior year when I was dealing with a lot of stuff from like my ex and his mental issues, my ex-best friend, dealing with the traumas I had faced before, and finally like coming face to face with them, and finally healing from them. Healing like was a long process that like made me very stressed out. So like I went mute, and I feel like this could probably be a mental thing that like happened, because like I also have a thing called childhood regression, I think. I don't know, I'm not sure the exact term, but I do have a thing like if I'm highly stressed out or like I'm dealing with something where I revert back to kind of being a child. So I'll start playing with my dolls, my toys. I'll start talking in a very baby voice. If you ever see me interacting with my family, I very much am childish. Like I very much revert to child voice. I have like, you know, in Stranger Things how Mike has a Will voice. I have my family voice. I talk very childish. I talk like a baby. I'm like, Granny, Mommy. Like I have a baby voice, which I know a lot of people find very cringe, but it's more of like a safety and comfort thing for me. and it does root back to like my mental illness. It's not just something I do because I want to do it. It's just I'm mentally, that's where I am. That's where I am. And I feel like maybe this is something like that because I also used to have like a staring problem. And I also do this where I'll like start peeking at my like, okay, like my family. Like if we're in the house and I'm having some type of manic, I have manic episodes a little bit, not as bad as they could be. Like they're not as bad as like they were before, but sometimes I'll go like a little manic and like I'll start peeking at people and stuff. And this kind of sounds like a manic episode where she's like peeking around the corners and like trying to find them. So I'm a little concerned about that because I'm like, yeah, her mother probably is best because maybe this is an underlying issue that you didn't know about because it can kind of pop up when triggered. So you not knowing about it for like 6 years honestly makes sense. I'm not gonna lie. Because like sometimes my mental illness will take like, it takes periods. So I don't think it's that out of the question. I didn't really want to talk to her at all, but I had to talk to someone and someone who knew Lynn better than I did. So I grit my teeth and did what I had to do. Yes, she answered, already sounding irritated. Maureen, it's Ben. Do you have a minute to talk? I asked. I could hear her cluck her tongue in irritation. I'm in the middle of writing some checks, but if you insist, I suppose I can spare a moment. What is it that you want to discuss, Benjamin? She said, coolly. It's about Lynn. She's been acting strangely, and I was wondering if you had any idea whether she was something. I was quickly interrupted. It's difficult to follow your ramblings, Benjamin. What is it you want from me? She asked. I almost see her standing in front of me with a thin sweater and slacks, tapping her fingernails impatiently at the table. I wanted to know if you had ever noticed any odd behavior, or possibly any mental health issues, I asked. There was a long, uncomfortable pause that I couldn't tell was there because she was just thinking or something else. Finally, after a few seconds, she spoke. I'm not sure if this is one of your jokes, Benjamin, but I don't see the humor in it. Now I do have business to attend to, as I've said, so if you don't mind, she said, but I cut her off before she could get rid of me. Maureen, it's not a joke. I'm sincerely concerned about Lynn's mental health. Her behavior has been very erratic lately, and I'm very worried about her, and I figured, as your mother, you might as well be too. I said, my frustration evident in my voice. If you're truly concerned, then I suggest you get a health professional involved. I didn't know what you'd expect of me, she snapped. I could tell she was seconds away from hanging up the phone, and for some reason I was desperate not to let her go. I had the feeling that she knew a lot more than she was letting on. Please, if not for me, do it for Lynn, I tried. I heard a faint, shaky intake of breath, as if she was trying to hold her stern persona together but failing. Maureen, what's wrong? I started. Benjamin, I don't know what to tell you. My only advice would be to seek professional help. Do not call here again. Goodbye. I tried to call her out, but she hung up. I tried to wrap my head around the call and her refusal to help me. Even if she didn't like me, why wouldn't she want to help her own daughter? I couldn't understand that. I tried to replay the conversation, desperate to find something I missed. After a while, I almost gave up, until I remembered her last words spoke to me. Seek professional help, she said. Those words were a bit of urgency. I could have just been grasping at straws, but no. I was sure her voice had changed ever so slightly when she said that, as if they were very important. What had she meant? I assumed she'd been referring to mental or medical professionals, but maybe she was referring to someone else, someone that she didn't for some reason feel comfortable saying directly. Or maybe I was just desperate. I waited for Chris to get home, and after a very long and exhausting conversation with him and Rebecca, I convinced them that Lynn truly needed mental help. She needed mental help. I didn't tell them everything. I wasn't prepared to go into full detail yet, but I told them about our last encounter, how she hid in the bathroom peeking at me from the closet. They were obviously shocked and thankfully believed me. They too wanted to help her. They still didn't think it was all too serious, weird maybe, but not dangerous. They just kept saying that Lynn had been playing some sort of weird joke. Maybe for YouTube, Rebecca offered, if only half-heartedly. Chris didn't think we should get involved Chris thought we shouldn't involve the police just yet. He offered instead to go with me, and readily, I accepted. He reasoned that calmly talking to her, trying to coax her into going willingly, would be the best recourse. I agreed to do it this way. At least I wouldn't be going to that house alone. We drove over this morning just after breakfast, and there was no way I was going at night. We pulled into the driveway and my stomach began to do somersaults. Her car wasn't there, but I still didn't let my guard down. The front door was ajar, and for a split second I thought we'd seen her staring through the gap. I was shaking and starting to sweat. Chris, however, was fine. He waited for me to open the door, his hands in his pocket like he was going on a fucking stroll through the park, and I envied his ignorance. I pushed the door open and was immediately hit with a stench of rot. Chris smelled it too, and walked in the house behind me with his nose scrunched up. "What do you guys use to clean the floors around here? Shit?" Chris mumbled. "Shut up," I said, my eyes darting around for any signs of Lynn. The house was deadly quiet and dark despite being 10 a.m. in the morning. All the curtains were closed up tight, refusing to allow any sunlight inside. If I hadn't left it just 2 days prior, I would have thought the house was abandoned. We moved through each room carefully, checking any place that she might hide, occasionally calling her name. "Why the fuck are you looking under the couch?" Chris asked eventually. "Aren't we looking for your wife?" he asked, looking at me like I was a moron. "Let's just go upstairs," I whispered. He shook his head but followed me up the stairs to check the bathroom and the spare room. On the way up, my shoes crunched over pieces of glass that looked to be littered over a few of the steps. I noticed that one of Lynn and my wedding portraits that were hung up on the wall along the staircase had been smashed. The frame hung crookedly, all the glass removed. I stared at the picture, a lump forming in my throat. We had taken that photo just before leaving the church after saying our vows. She looked so beautiful in her white gown. I looked at Lynn's beautiful face. I never dreamt her face would ever be the source of terror for me. We climbed the rest of the steps and checked the spare bedroom, but it looked completely untouched. I was hesitant to go into the bathroom, my fear that from that night coming back to me all at once. Chris noticed and offered to go in by himself, but I couldn't let him do that. So we walked in together, checking the closet and the shower. The bathroom looked as if it hadn't been touched since that night I left. "I don't think she's been here, Ben. Why don't you pack some clothes and we try coming back tomorrow or something?" Chris said. I nodded and went into our bedroom and shoved some clothes into a duffel bag. When I checked inside our closet, I came across the source of the smell and gagged. Chris took one look and lost all the color in his face. He had to go stand by the stairs to get away from the sight and smell. I gazed down in shock at what lay inside my bedroom closet. Soaking into the rug were at least a dozen eyeballs, all carefully laid out in pairs. Some were as large as a quarter, while others were as tiny as a marble. I stared down at the eyes she collected from small animals and wondered how she got in them, and shuddered at the thought. I thought it was bad with Becca's shoe addiction, but fuck me, your wife is in here collecting eyeballs, Chris said, gagging. "Ben, I think we should go," he called from the hall. "I'm getting nauseous." "All right." I grabbed my duffel and shut the door on my new nightmare. I stepped out into the hall and took a deep breath of air. I could taste the rot on my tongue, and I couldn't help but gag. "Who the fuck lines up eyeballs in their closet like that?" Chris mumbled. "I tried to tell you she needed help," I said. "She doesn't need help, Ben. She needs a fucking exorcist," he said. "You coming or what? I can't stand the smell any." His words died in his throat, and his eyes grew with fear. I didn't ask him why. I could feel it. Someone was watching me, and I didn't think it was the eyes in the closet. I turned around, my eyes slowly scanning the bedroom. "Christ," I whispered, as I finally saw what we missed. Under the bed, curled on her side, watching us with the excitement of a kid on Christmas morning, was my wife. She held her hands together just under her chin. They were shaking eagerly. Now she knew she'd been found. I could hear the quiet noises she was making, a sort of hiccuping sound in her throat, as if the excitement was just too much for her. It was unnerving to say the least. Wide eyes and that huge same smile. Everything in me told me to run, but I forced it away. This was my wife. No matter how twisted she was, still the woman I married. I had to help her. "Lynn," I said softly. She didn't respond, but her head bolted back and forth in 2 quick little movements as if she were nodding. "Baby, I just want to help you, okay? Can you let me do that?" I asked. I had taken a single step towards her, approaching her like some sort of dangerous animal. "I love you, Lynn," I said softly, taking another step closer. She let a tiny moan escape her wide open mouth, and I had to resist the urge to run. Her shoulders were starting to shiver, her eyes as they grew saucers. I crouched down so I could see her better, and immediately saw the blood. Her hands were covered in it. They trembled more the closer I got, as if she was barely able to contain herself. "Lynn, are you hurt? You're bleeding," I said. She bobbled her head again, her bloody fingers moving up and down as if she were playing an invisible piano. They occasionally grazed her chin, leaving smears of blood on her skin. I wanted to recoil in disgust. The smell that was coming off and watching her was revolting. I could feel the vomit trying to climb up my throat. Her lips were dry and stretched thin, blood seeping down the cracks. I knew she wouldn't come out on her own, but I didn't want to leave her in the state she was in. I scooted closer and reached out to her. The excited hiccuping sounds got louder, and her hands shook, fingers flexing. It was then that I could see the blood was oozing from in between her fingers. Oh my gosh, Lynn, you're bleeding," I said. Instinctively, I reached out to take her hand, but before I could even touch her, her hand sprung out towards me. A sharp pain shot through my arm. I fell back on my ass. My arm burned, and I could see I was dripping blood into the carpet. I looked down in shock and saw her grinning madly, her fingers clutching a large shard of glass. "You right in there?" Chris said from behind me. I turned my head slightly and turned, nodding at him, clawing my arm to my chest. When I turned back to face Lynn, I saw that her focus had shifted. She wasn't looking at me anymore, and she wasn't smiling anymore. She was staring past me, her eyes glaring at Chris, the way a hungry lion might stare at an antelope. Her mouth was hanging open, but it twisted into a snarl. I got to my feet and began walking down the hall, afraid to take my eyes off of her. "Are you bleeding?" Chris asked. The moment the words left his mouth, Lynn started scooting out from under the bed, the glass of shard still in her fist. "Chris, run, go," I yelled. He must have been too afraid to move because a second later I felt my back bump into him. He was still standing at the top of the stairs, staring at horror that this was my wife. Lynn had crawled out completely from under the bed and stood in the bedroom doorway, her face twisted in rage. Her whole body was visibly tense. Blood ran down her fingers and onto the floor. "Jesus, Lynn," Chris said. "You, playing hide and seek?" I reached back and pushed him towards the steps. "Move your ass, Chris," I said quietly but firmly as I could. "Okay, I am gonna say my opinion, okay? Chris, why are y'all underestimating the situation? Like, okay, if someone is killing animals, that is one thing, okay? That's already a first sign of a serial killer. That's already a sign of a killer in general, okay? But like, the killing animals part isn't as bad as the collecting the eyeballs part. She's actively collecting them and letting them rot in the room. Like, it would be different if she like did the thing where like she kind of like, you know, made them preserved You know, like people like keep dead deer. Like making them preserved would be totally different, but she's collecting them actively after she kills the animal. I feel like after that, you should have been immediately out of the house. Like there should have been no like getting your clothes. Like you see the dead animals there? Well, the dead eyeballs. Like even just smelling the rot, you should have called the police. Like there shouldn't have been any of you entering the house. You smell that rot and you know it did not smell like that 2 days ago. You call the cops. Like there's no like what if or there, and ask them to look for your wife because you're concerned, but you also think there's someone dangerous in the house. You don't even have to say your wife is the dangerous one. They'll find that out on their own. But say there's someone dangerous in the house, or there might be someone dangerous in the house, and that you think your wife needs help or is in trouble. The police will be there, and you can let the police handle that. I think you should have got the police involved as soon as you smelled the house. You know, because like that smell, if it smelled like rotting flesh, call the cops, because you don't even know if your wife is alive. Like your wife could have been the one dead, and so the cops should have been the one to deal with that. But anyway, let's continue. Lynn bobbled her head in a fast, sharp motions and began to grin, stretching her mouth open wider and wider so that her chin touched her chest. I heard Chris mutter a prayer, and then he was running down the stairs. I stood at the top of the steps, stuck between the love for a woman who was clearly needed some serious help and self-preservation. I only want to help. Sir, just run. Just run. There is no helping at this point. Like, the only help you can do is calling the cops once you get out of the house and to safety. Like, you want to help, you're not going to be able to help her if you're dead. You're not going to be... She stabbed you. She legit stabbed you. You're not going to be able to help if you're dead. Because she just stabbed you and she looked happy doing it. She's clearly having a manic episode. Like, honestly, like, I've never had a manic episode where I wanted to hurt someone else, but I have had a manic episode where I hurt myself. And so, like, she's clearly having a manic episode, and it brings back so many memories to me because, like, while I was doing that to myself, I was smiling, I was so happy, I was so excited, and she's doing it to someone else. Like, there's no helping that unless you get to safety. Okay. I only want to help, I said, choking back tears. Her eyes focused on me once again as she slowly lifted the glass, holding it out in front of her, and then she started sprinting towards me, grinning with utter excitement. Thankfully, my body took over and I flew down the stairs, skipping 2 or 3 at a time. I made it to the front door before I felt her leap onto my back, wrapping her arms around my neck, her open mouth next to my ear so I could hear the terrible noise of hiccuping up close. I shook her off me, knocking her to the floor. I felt a shearing pain on my back as she went, but I tore open the front door and bolted to my car. Chris was standing in the front yard talking on the phone with the police. I didn't say a word. I just ran to my car and jumped in. Chris took the hint and followed me, still on the line with 911. I watched the near rearview mirror. Sure, I'd see her there, running after us, but I never did. I went straight to the ER and got 11 stitches in my arm and 3 on my back. The police asked a lot of questions and I went back to the house to do a search, but of course, Lynn wasn't there. They advised me to stay with a friend or relative for a while and to file a restraining order as soon as I could, but none of those things would matter. Somehow, I just knew. I dropped Chris off at home and went to a motel an hour away. I wanted to put as much distance between me and Lynn as I could. This is where I've been for the last 4 hours. I thought maybe the police would find her. Maybe they'd get her the help she desperately needs. But now, I don't think so, because 40 minutes ago, I got a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. I found you. And a picture attached. The picture was dark and grainy, but I instantly knew what it was. There was no mistaking it. My wife's eye. I started typing this out immediately after. I don't know what to do. I'm alone and scared. I can't help but feel I'm being watched. You don't know what to do. You call the cops again. You call the cops. That's what I hate about a lot of stalker stories, because I know this is his wife in this scenario, you know, but like what I hate about stalker stories is that a lot of people will underestimate the police, which I know it makes sense because in a lot of these cases, the police really don't do anything, you know, but they also don't do anything because you don't document what happens to you and you don't report immediately what happens to you. You get what I mean? Like, if you're being stalked, and to this degree like he is, Because like I'm even counting the peeking as stalking. And like you get a text from an unknown number called I found you, you call the police and get them to come immediately. Like you call the cops, okay? And if you can't call them, maybe just having it on the line. I don't know if you can text the police. Maybe we should Google that at some point. But if you can text the police, like call them and then text them what's happening, I feel like that would be the most useful thing. And I feel like that should be a thing, because there's been some scenarios where if you call the police, that can end your life. Like you calling the police could end your life while you're trying to get help, because like the killer hears you, the person hears you. And so calling the police might not be the best option, especially like in a scenario like this where you don't know where she is. It's like, I wish we could text the police, because if he's typing this out, like maybe on his phone, I hope we can text the police. I don't know if that's a thing or not. I've never really heard of it, so I'm not sure, but I think it should be the thing. But you know, I digress. Let's look at some of the comments. Man, I'm saying it now. I've never experienced love between two people. She needs more than an exorcism. I don't know what, but use physical force now. She's not going to hold back, so neither should you. Next time she lunges at you, beat her up, bro. Okay, another comment. Does anyone know if this man is okay? This was 4 years ago. This is absolutely terrifying. The face of insanity was from like the lights out. No, I'd be terrified, honestly. There is no update that I can currently find, but I will do my resting thoughts on the story. My case is, okay, at first I really thought it was a mimic. Like I didn't think it was actually the wife doing it. I'm a little sad that there's not an update that I can find here, because I want to know why the mom was so like, I don't know why the mom wouldn't want to help her daughter unless she knew what was happening and she just didn't want to be involved with it. Like I feel like she knew there was something wrong with her daughter and didn't want to be involved. And I feel like that might be why the daughter always like rushed out, is because she didn't want the mom to reveal something about her. Do you get what I mean? Like she might have promised the daughter not to say anything, and the only thing she could say was seek professional help. So I feel like this might have happened before, but like I'm not sure. I'm a little terrified of the fact that like I found you and like we just don't know what happens. I'm like, oh, so he died. So basically he died. And my thing is like, I stay with someone. You can't be alone. Like you and Chris can stay at the motel, because she's obviously going to hunt Chris down too. Do you get what I mean? Like she's not just going to let Chris go either. So why don't y'all all stay at a motel, take a vacation type of vibe, and like try to get your mind off of it, but also like you're staying far away where she can't get you. Like hopefully she's not really able to drive under the state, and so like it would be hard to kind of find you. Do you know what I mean? But I guess she did find you, but like you're an hour away. If you were with Chris and like Becca, maybe you'd be a lot safer in my opinion. And it's like, if you're in that scenario, guys, don't be afraid to take your safety first. Like think about safety, because like there's a lot of like domestic cases and there's a lot of stalker cases with like exes, wives, husbands, like the whole jizz, where people are naive because of love, which I love love, okay? I love love, but just don't be naive. Just be safe. Like there was clearly ways to avoid the end where he had to go to the ER. Like you smelt the rotting flesh. Like you smelt it, you call the police. There's no other explanation for that. Like, you know that your wife has been deranged. I feel like my immediate thought would have been she killed something, or she's dead. You know, like she killed something, or the mental illness finally caught up to her. And I would have called the cops. I wouldn't go inside. Like, are you crazy? Like you smelt that. You and Chris smelt that. Or I would call the cops just to check the house in general. If I didn't see her car there, I would tell them about what was going on, because sure, it sounds like a prank, but it doesn't sound like a prank the way you're describing it. Like if you describe it the way you're describing it, like it sounds like she's mentally deranged and needs help. Like there could be some cases where it's seen as a prank, but I feel like this doesn't even feel like a prank. It just feels like she's crazy and needs help. And so I feel like the police or someone would take it seriously enough to check the house for you and not put you in that situation or state. Anyway, guys, that's really all I have to say about the story. This is kind of a hard story to like really have a lot of comments about, because it's so like, it's actually gut-wrenching. It's less scary, like it's scary, but it's like scary in a real way, because It's like, I don't even think it's supernatural. This doesn't feel supernatural. Like, it feels a lot.
I'm finna go Walmart.
Okay, are you getting Papa's medicine? Okay. It doesn't feel supernatural. It feels like, oh, Sonia, cut that out. Anyway, it doesn't feel supernatural. It feels like, it feels mental. At first I kind of low-key thought it was a brain tumor, but I always think it's a brain tumor. Like, that's always my immediate reaction, is that it's some type of brain tumor that they're experiencing. But in this case, I'm like, this just seems pure mental illness. Like, it could be a brain tumor, but it could just be mental illness. Like, she could just be having a manic episode that turned psychotic. Do you get what I mean? Because like, when I'm in a manic episode, ooh, I am kind of low-key very similar like this, but like to myself, if that makes any sense. Like, I wouldn't harm someone else, but when I'm in a mental, like in a manic state, I'm very harmful to myself. And I'm like, that kind of sounds like this, and it sounds like her manic turned psychotic or sociopathic. I don't know, it turned kind of crazy. And I was like, this was an underlying health issue that her parents definitely know about, and I wish we knew more about it, but I don't see an update from OP. So if you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. I am so happy about this podcast. I'm glad y'all liked the other one where I read a creepypasta on here. Check out my other episodes of Do Not Disturb, and I post every Wednesday. Bye.